Hello, everybody, and welcome to another fine edition of Bombers Blitz here on the College Football Mafia Network. I'm your host, Nathan Bomber Brown, and tonight they keep moving the time around. So the original time I had to start this show was a half hour earlier, and then they announced they're not going to put out the rankings till the bottom of the hour. So we're roughly 29 minutes away from the rankings being released. As soon as those pop up, I will track those and we will be talking about them in real time. And that should be a lot of fun. I'm really looking forward to that. Also, we have a special guest coming on who he's a writer. I want to make sure I get this right. Robert Faringo, who is another handicapper, and he's also been a writer for I think USA Today and some other magazines. So we will talk to him about the kind of the current state of college football and the business of college football. That'll be at in 1 hour. So that'll be at the top of the hour. So that'll be 9 Eastern. He'll come on. He'll join me for about 15 minutes or so. And then from there, we'll probably wrap up. So that's kind of what we have planned tonight. So right now, I've got 30 minutes. I can answer your comments, questions. I'll get right directly to member comments as we move through the show. We have about 25 minutes, like I said, and then we'll get to the CFP picks, and then we'll go from there, kind of see how it goes. So I appreciate everybody being here tonight. Make sure you follow on Twitter, X, I guess. Subscribe on YouTube. If you're over on Twitter watching us, do us a favor, open up another window. Go to the College Football Mafia page on YouTube and hit that subscribe button. We're always trying to build up our subscriber base. Really appreciate everybody that helps us do that. We track stuff around here from realignment, college football news and notes, college football playoff, anything that has to do with big time college sports, we do track around here. So I want to thank everybody for being here tonight, and we'll sort of go from there. So I'm going to start off with comments that were right in the door, right as we get going here. Earl Carr, who's been an OG member of the College Football Mafia family. It's good to see you, Earl. I've missed you. Good to have you here. Sup, Moen, is what Earl says. Caden, the Diesel Freak, checked in a little bit earlier, said, good evening, College Football Mafia. Good to have you here, Caden. Daniel Gygax checking in and did another video or two on Sunday. He is sort of the Andy Rooney, the 60 minutes commentary is what Daniel gives us each and every weekend, and I really appreciate all that hard work he gives us. He says, hi, everybody. Chris G in the house. Good to have you here, Chris. Hokie reporting. So, Chris, you got to be very happy. You got your coach, James Franklin, if you didn't know this, is now the new head coach at Virginia Tech University. I had Texas Tech on the brain there for a second. And if I was Virginia Tech, I would be ecstatic if I'm one of your fans. So if I'm Chris, I'm super happy because I think James Franklin is a fantastic coach. He's also a good culture builder. He builds a good culture around him. So I would put Virginia Tech on the climb back already. They've already won the offseason by getting their coach, and they got him early, and that was a smart thing to do. Good to have you here, Chris. Troll grinding, cheek clapper, knocking in. Always comes in off the top rope. Good to have you here, man. I'm dissatisfied with USC. If I want mediocrity, I'd be an Anaheim Ducks or Angels fan, but I ain't from Anaheim. I'm from LA. So they need to play like champions so they can play and win a national championship. So I'd ask you this, troll grinding, cheek clapper. By the way, one of the best social media names ever. At the end of the day, are you happy that you're not getting a big payday and you're saving your brand with Michigan? You're not signing up to this financing deal that was going on at the Big Ten. If I was a USC fan, I would be ecstatic. I think it was look. This isn't the show to get into this. Everybody knows my opinion, but I think the whole media deal is more for the schools that are that aren't the top 8-10 brands. Although if you're Washington getting paid the same as Rutgers, yeah, I don't know. That's kind of what caught my attention. That doesn't make me happy. They're talking about multi-tiers. The best brands get the most money, and then there's ways you can earn your way up, and also you can be demoted if you don't play well, I guess, over an extended amount of time. Although I'm not sure how they enforce that, to be honest. I don't know. What does that mean, not play well, if you're a blue blood? These are questions. Oregon's not a blue blood, but USC certainly is. If I was USC and I'm not getting one, paid top tier, and two, guaranteed a spot for the next media deal, I'm holding my breath a little bit. Now, if I'm Purdue, if I'm even Michigan State, I want this financing deal because it's another 10-year gore, and it keeps the Big Ten together. It's less time for the biggest brands to potentially break away. I'm not saying they're going to, but that potential now will be there for the next 9 years until they can come up with a deal that ties everybody together again. A 10-year gore at this point would make the conference would be largely inviable. It'd be together for 20 years and be pretty hard to pull away at that point. So time will tell, but if I'm USC, I'm very happy about that deal. If I'm Michigan, I'm happy. If I'm Ohio State, I'm happy. I don't know why Ohio State would be excited about this financing deal. They don't need the money. But again, there are schools that are looking for that certitude, and I definitely believe that their opinions matter. If I was in the same position, that's what I would want for my school as well. Car Wash Channel, welcome to the channel, brother. I'm not sure I've seen you before, but thank you so much for being here today. Make sure you subscribe and follow. Do all that hard work. You can help us out in that regard. I say Utah deserves a playoff spot. So, and then he also says they're a good team. Utah is a good team. They only lost to the best two teams in the Big 12. So technically they're the third best team. If you're really looking at it that way, they are a good team. They've largely stat padded in the back part of the season. But man, a win's a win. You win by 30 plus every game. That's hard to do. So I'm all for Utah winning. I just there's a couple of exceptions in there. So I think Utah deserves, I think is in quotations, who deserves to get to a spot. If you're talking Miami or Utah, I would take Miami. But that's personal preference. I fully am on record. You see the Y over my shoulder on my head? I'm a BYU fan, so there's a reason I say that. But certainly, if we were dealing with a 16-team playoff, I think both Miami and Utah are in. So unfortunately, we're still at 12, which means really only 10, because you're saving two more, one for the G6 and one for the ACC conference this year. Let's see here, Chris G. I'm going to mark that for later. One more comment from Car Wash Channel. As a Utah fan, I say Utah needs a playoff bid. Last 3 games been score plus 40 points. It's what have you done for me lately? Certainly, Car Wash Channel. Unfortunately, they lost only 2 games that really mattered on their schedule. They lost to Tech and they lost to BYU. So, yeah, I mean, I think they deserve a spot as long as it's within reason, as long as it doesn't put out a school that I think has deserved that spot better. And I'm a big head-to-head competition guy, so you should not be ahead of a team that beat you head-to-head. Hello, Miami, Notre Dame. And I've always said that. Always, always, always. Isaac Harlan, BYU, good to have you here, Isaac. Make sure you subscribe and follow me on Twitter. I appreciate seeing you tonight. BYU will be at 11 tonight. That sucks. They should be ahead of Alabama, but whatever. But all they got to worry about is keep winning their next 2 games. And if they're competitive, at least in the Tech game, they will get a playoff spot, in my opinion. I sure hope so, Isaac. I'm a little nervous. I must admit. An 11-2 BYU that loses to Tech by less than 14 points deserves a spot for sure. For sure deserves a spot in the playoff. I can't sit here right now and say for certain that that's going to happen. I want it to happen, but I'm not certain. But I agree with you. BYU just needs to go out and win some games. There's no doubt about it. Sean, checking in. Good to have you here, Sean. Texas Tech is good enough to play in the national championship game. They're good. They need to keep their quarterback upright, and stay away from the injury bug. But certainly, yes, they have earned their way into that national conversation. There's no doubt about it. Caden the Diesel Freak, a $2 super chat. Thank you so much, Caden. Did you see the short I posted about the Big 12? I can't remember if I saw it or not, Caden, but I know you sent me a message on it. I will check it after the show. I will check and watch it, okay? I can't comment on it because I don't think I've seen it yet. But I will see it. And I know this, you respect the Big 12 big time. So anything you put out about the Big 12, I really, really respect and I appreciate you. Thank you for the $2 super chat. And on top of that, Caden gives a one gifted membership to College Football Mafia Network. Thank you so much, Caden. You know, I don't do a lot of the sounders around here, but Caden, thank you so much for not only being a member of the College Football Mafia family, but turning around and giving a membership to somebody else. If you received that membership and that membership went to Edward Wilson. So Edward, make sure you thank Caden for that membership. He's done a wonderful thing for you. I would tell you after this show tonight, go into our show library and there's a bunch of member videos in there that you can ask any of the members in the chat. It's worth your time and your money. I promise you. So thank you so much, Caden. That was very unselfish of you. And I know this, karma pays it forward. You will get paid back. And I would just say to Edward, if you want karma to come to you, do the same thing. Pay somebody else's way into a membership with the College Football Mafia channel. Really quick, if you don't know how to do that and you're watching, next to the comment section down at the bottom, you'll see a little picture of a dollar bill. Click on that and you can either gift memberships or become a member yourself or do super chats. Okay, let's get back to some shout outs here. Thank you so much, Caden, for that. Really, really. Let's see here. I'm going to mark that one for later. Sean, 16 of the Big Ten teams just want the Gore extension, nothing to do with the money. Sean, I think you're right. It's not 16. I think that number's maybe a little less. But 16 certainly is the minimum that has been announced, for sure. I agree with you. I think that's exactly what the money's nice. 9 digits in money payout from this UC deal is not small money, but largely that's not what it's for. It's to keep the conference together with a Gore. Yeah, we'll have to see. Time will tell where that goes, though. Chris G says, agreed, a second ACC over a third Big 12. See, so these are conversations they're at least worth having, in my opinion. At least worth having. Thank you, Chris. Sean, again, still want the 2 AQs. Well, I would prefer, 2 AQs would be fine. I would prefer 4, and we go to 24. And no, I'm not psychotically against it, like some people are. I think AQs are not the worst thing in the world. There's worse ideas out in the world right now than auto qualifiers to get into a college football playoff. Rock and Rant, he of College Football Express on YouTube. Make sure you follow Rock and Rant and then go to College Football Express and hit that subscribe button. They're doing good work over there, he and Flo, and we really, really appreciate all the time he puts in over here. So much. Wish them nothing but luck as they move forward. Miami fan in the house. There's going to be a parallel playoff ranking for the teams that get screwed so we can throw crap at the committee, boy. Yeah. Yeah, that could easily happen again, Rock. There is a world where both BYU and Miami get left out, and BYU has one more win and the same level of losses like they did last year and don't get in. That very well could happen. Miami needs help to get to the conference championship game. If they win the conference they're in, there's no question about that. Nobody's saying that, obviously. Miami deserves to be there ahead of Notre Dame, though. And that's something you and I can agree on for certain. I'm not sure how many Notre Dame fans are watching me live right this second. Probably not a lot. But I'm all for Notre Dame having a spot. Fine, give them access to the playoff. But do they deserve to be in over somebody who's gone through a conference schedule? I don't believe so. That's my opinion. And especially if you don't win against them head-to-head. If you lose head-to-head, my opinion, there is not even a question to be had there if you have the same number of losses and you lose the head-to-head. So we will have to see. Time will tell. But quickly, I want to get to the top 25 so everybody knows kind of as we're going into these rankings tonight, kind of what everybody's looking at, kind of where the movement, if there is any, will happen. Let me bring this up here. There we go. So we'll just start off at the top. Ohio State. None of these are going to change, by the way, I don't think. Indiana, Texas A&M, Georgia, Ole Miss moved up 1. Texas Tech moved up 2 in the last 2 weeks. Oregon jumped from 9 to 6. Oklahoma won this weekend. They beat Alabama. Notre Dame, I don't know if they won or not. It doesn't really matter because their season is largely done. And then Alabama lost. Now, this is the top 25, right? So the top 25 is separate from the CFP, although at this point, there's not a ton different. But this is where I have questions. BYU should be ahead of Alabama, in my opinion. Now, it's not going to happen. I'm preparing the world. BYU is not going to be 10. They're going to probably be 11. But they deserve this 10 spot. And then behind them, I think you could make an argument for Alabama, Utah, and Miami. All three of them would have an argument at that point. But BYU's got one less loss. There's no excuse. And their strength of schedule and strength of record is not much different either. And those are new metrics that were just added this year. For what reason? To protect the SEC, by the way. BYU is they're ahead of Notre Dame in most of those records. And they're right around where Alabama is, peer-to-peer. So BYU one less loss, taking care of business by beating TCU pretty good last week. Again, they play Cincinnati this week. Another, good team. The story is if they win out, they'll get that spot. And this is what Sean was just saying right here. If BYU doesn't get throttled in the conference championship game, they are in. I hope that's the case. Just to finish out the top 15, we'll just go top 14. BYU at 9-1, Vanderbilt, Utah, and Miami all are 8-2. I would put Alabama in that group. I think BYU is the clear 10 team in the country. They're not going to be there, but they should be. And Miami is leading the ACC conference, even though they're not going to win the ACC conference without a lot of help, without a lot of craziness for them to get into the tournament, the championship game at the end of the year. Then we can just name these off. Georgia Tech right now has that 11 spot representing the ACC. If the ACC gets that spot, if not, then Miami's looking for an at-large. USC, Texas lost again. Michigan, Virginia. Virginia again could possibly win the ACC. James Madison is right now the 12th team in a college football playoff. They're the highest ranked G6 school, and South Florida just keeps giving that spot away. Every week I pick them, every week they go back and lose. So maybe it's my problem. Maybe it's my fault that USF loses. It's because when I pick them to win, they lose. I don't know. And then you can't get – Missouri is like the Terminator. You can't get rid of it no matter how many losses they have. Tulane's and North Texas and Tulane are the next two highest. And then Houston rounds out the top 25 at number 25. That spot last week went to Cincinnati. So that's really what this conversation is going to be around tonight. And it's funny they do the break right here, but this is where the advertising break was at. Alabama at 10 and BYU at 11. That's really the argument that people are going to talk about tonight. I think ESPN is already on record. Most of their talking heads have said, yeah, that spot's not going to go to BYU, which in my opinion sucks if that happens. But, there's still 2 more weeks. There's still time to go out and win games. But is it enough? I'm just hitting refresh on this CFP page on ESPN. Hasn't started yet. So what do you guys think? Put your comments in right now, and I will run through as many of them as I can as we're preparing for this top 12 for the college football playoff. Put your comments in right now, and I will read as many as I can get through in the next 8 minutes. Okay, so I'm going to work backwards. Sean says Utah should be there. Only losses are to top 10 teams. Yeah, okay. Like I said, I hate where we get into arguments. Just expand the playoff, let the most good teams in, and then you'll never have a dispute. It'll be easy. You just pick the teams that have earned their way to that spot. But you can have an argument, and I'll look at this. I'm not going to bring it up again, but you can have an argument all the way down to 14, all the way down to 16. Oh, so right there's your top 16. You can have, out of the top 16, you could have 15 of those teams plus the G6 champion. That would get you all the way through Georgia Tech, and USC would be the first team out. The fact that we're still at 12 teams is a joke. It's a joke. It's just an absolute joke. Anyway, Daniel says, Nate, how big of an Auburn fan will you be during the Iron Bowl? I will be a fan, Daniel. I don't think Auburn's going to beat them, but they've beat them before when they haven't had a good team. So, yeah, I'll be anybody who plays against Texas, Oklahoma, Alabama, Vanderbilt, anybody certainly who plays against Notre Dame, or even Oklahoma. I'm cheering against all of those schools, not because I don't like the schools. The schools are fantastic. It's that I want my BYU to be in the playoff. Very selfish. Isaac Harlan, no matter what, there will be arguments, even if they expand to 16. You're right. There will always be arguments. There's arguments in a 68 team playoff right now for the basketball league. Look, you're always going to have arguments as long as you don't settle something on the field like the NFL does. As long as it's that way, you're always going to have arguments. But to me, I want football games. I would rather get rid of the crappy bowls, go to 24, and have first and second round home games in the playoff. Why don't we do that? Not only can the schools make more money, the conferences make more money, but could be some fun matchups there. This college purist crap about keeping the playoff is to the smallest amount. I just don't buy it. Never have. But I'm also a guy that I'm non-traditional because I don't have a problem with steroids in sports either, as long as they're regulated. I'm like that with most controlled substances too. As long as they're regulated and I'm getting tax benefits from those things, go out and regulate them, and then you'll undercut the cartels overnight. Regulate them, tax them. I know this. I get prescriptions every month, and I have prescriptions that are more regulated than stuff that people are just down and buying on the corner. It's broken. The system's broken. Becky Go Huskies checking in. Where have you been, Becky? Good to see you. Appreciate you being here tonight. Becky is a contributor extraordinaire to the College Football Mafia family. Appreciate you. Also a valuable member. Baseball was better in the steroid era. Oh, I never finished that thought. I'm for steroids in sports. Just regulate them. I have no problem with it. Ken Seiko, baseball was never better than when in the 80s and 90s when everybody was roiding up. Never better. Look it up on YouTube. People put videos together about it. I promise you, never been better since the 80s and 90s in baseball. Nope. To Town Hawk checking in, representing the Kansas Jayhawks, also a valuable member of the College Football Mafia family. It's the number of games. I don't see the need for making college players play a full NFL season. Yeah, I mean, I guess. I mean, I'm not that thinking isn't lost on me, but they're already playing that number of games. They're only playing, 2 or 3 less to win the national championship. What's the difference if 2 teams are playing for an entire month and a half, or it's 8 or 10 or 16 or 24 teams that start on that journey? You're still looking at 5 rounds of playoff. So, but that's a debate for another day. I appreciate it's good to see you to Town Hawk. Is Kansas, when they play Utah, are they going to give Utah a run for the money? That's the only question I have. Christopher Foote, welcome to the channel. Make sure you subscribe and follow us on Twitter. A season is 12 weeks. Well, technically it's 14 weeks, Christopher. 15 weeks if you count the Army-Navy game. And then you jump right into championship week and playoffs. So it's not 12 weeks. It's closer. If you want to win a national championship, I believe it's 16 or 17 weeks. Somebody can fact check me on that. I might be off 1 week. Might be 4. So it might be 16 total. They're already doing it. Why do we care if it's just 2 teams playing all those extra games versus you start with 24? There's still the same number of rounds. Now 12, it's only 3 plus a championship, Brian. So now right now it is 1 week shorter. But if you were to go from 16 to 24, it's still the same number of games. Anything past 12, you add an additional round. Anyway, playoff is stupid. Okay. I'm not sure what that means. Well, Christopher, right here, this is not true. It is professional football. What is your school, Christopher? Tell me that in the comments as we're waiting for this thing to pop up. What school do you represent? Because I can almost guarantee you, if you belong to an A4 conference in school, if you belong to an A4 conference in school, your quarterback's making between $500 and $2 million a year. I don't know why that matters. What does it matter what you call it? They're getting paid. Colorado State. So Colorado State, you have to be paying your quarterback what? Maybe $50,000? I don't know what Colorado State's funding looks like. Maybe it's $100,000. And if you want to win, you're going to have to pay even a little bit more. But I'm all for it. Look, Colorado State could be the next Texas Tech. That's one thing you can't argue with this new day is that all it takes is your school to get a booster, and you could go from also ran to championship team in a year or two. You just have to find somebody who's going to write some big checks. But it's not about equity. It's not about equity because equity means that there's a fairness doctrine, and college football has never been fair, ever. Ever. College football has never been fair. So, anyway, let's see here. Professional football is a tournament. No. College football is an invitational. Professional football is a playoffs tournament that you earn your way into, right? All the data, because you have divisions and all those other things you can micromanage and measure, that's where they come from. So it's a tournament, but you have to get access to the tournament. You have to qualify for the tournament. So anyway, these are great comments, guys. These are great comments. Anything can happen on Black Friday, Nate. I may drive up from Dallas after Thanksgiving dinner. Boy, you guys got to give them a run for their money. That's all I'm saying to Town Hall. And this hasn't started. Oh, it hasn't started. Sorry, we're still a couple minutes early. All right, let's get to some more comments. BCS, yeah. Look, I'm more for a BCS than more power for a committee. I'm higher on a BCS than ever, but BCS needs to remove some things like recruiting rankings, get rid of recruiting rankings, and get rid of the preseason rankings, and a BCS will work much better. But in a BCS platform, Colorado State has every opportunity to continue to win and compete if you get the money to put the team together. That's absolutely true. Absolutely true. Let's see here. I'm working backwards through comments. Sorry, everybody. Isaac Harlan says, I think BYU should be ahead of Oregon and Alabama, but they won't be. Well, Oregon still just got the one loss, but Alabama has 2. So that you could actually point to and say, see, there's a measurement. They are different. This is why they should be considered differently. Is the crazy spending coming in line next year? I know Tech thought they had a window this year, so I'm wondering if payrolls will be more even next year. If we're asking, and we're getting a little bit ahead into the off season here to Town Hawk, but I don't think it's going to make a difference. The front loaded deals and all that stuff, kids are going to get paid. They're going to get their money. How it works out, I'm not exactly sure, but I know these kids are going to continue to get paid millions and millions of dollars. So we'll find out. But right now, I don't think there's going to be a huge difference. Whoever wins the national championship this year is probably going to be on a $35 to $40 million payroll. So that's 20.5, which is the revenue sharing. And that comes from the universities directly. And it's really not 20.5 because most schools are doing 85% go to football players. So it's roughly $17, $18 million. And then on top of that, another 20. I think Tech is somewhere, these are rumors, somewhere over 35 million. Texas Tech. BYU's closer to around 28 to 30 is my guess. I've heard different numbers from different people. All that is an additional 10 million from boosters. The school is doing the initial 20 million. Sorry, I'm just reloading this page. They are late. They're now a minute and a half late. This event has not started yet. Of course it hasn't. ESPN, you suck. Anyway, let's see. Chris Foot, yes, I did like the Mark Rogers book. He is Eastern football bias, but he's very, very smart. And I want to try to get onto his show this week. I like Mark a lot. He's very, very smart, and he does the research. I would point everybody into getting it. The title of that is Disputed National Champions. And I asked him to do a 1980s. This is 1990s. I asked him to do a 1980s. I don't know if he started it yet, but that would be a good book. That would be another book I'd buy. Sean, they are professional players each. What's going on here? My screen. There we go. They are professional players, each team receiving equal revenue. College football isn't even close to pro. College football is 1% of the professional athletes every year. Pros aren't freshmen, sophomores. Well, there's okay, look. Obviously, they're not the same thing. Sean, I'm not saying that. Of course they're not. What I said is I was commenting on whether it's professional football, and I think it is professional football. If you talk about if you're paying players, that's professional in my opinion. Yeah, he's not a fan of BYU. It's true. Although he's come a long way. When I first met him, we couldn't even have a conversation, and now he at least respects my opinion. So I like Mark a lot. Like I said, I'm going to try to get on his show this week. I don't know. Do you guys have any other comments? I was really hoping that we'd be well into the playoff picks right now, and for some reason they are delayed. It must have to do with it was supposed to be halftime between the football games, I guess, is how they're timing it. And it still hasn't even started yet. I do have a guest coming on in 25 minutes, so hopefully this comes on pretty quickly. I'm going to preview that guest right now. It is Robert Faringo, who's a handicapper, and he writes about professional and college sports, and somebody that I want to get his opinion on kind of all the Big Ten media deal. We want to not media, the Big Ten financing deal, which isn't profit share, or sorry, that isn't Look, it's not private capital investment, as it were. It's an investment portfolio they're getting. The UC investments, they're not selling part of the Big Ten Conference. They're getting a 10% stake, if it goes through, in Big Ten Enterprises, which is the business of sports in the Big Ten. Not Big Ten Network either, something different. So, but that hasn't gone through yet. And if I had to guess, Yeah, I don't know. I'm still up in the air. It could happen where the Big Ten gets that over the line. They're going to have to kowtow to Michigan and USC, though, to get it done. So we will have to see. Let's see. Any more comments? So you guys don't have anything else for me tonight? You were just come to listen to me, huh? I feel bad. Well, let me get to let me fresh this again. Anybody who's watching live and tells me I miss it, let me know. No, it hasn't started yet. I'm going to get to bookmarks then, because I do have bookmarks we can go through from news of the day. This Chuck Todd article I found fascinating, absolutely fascinating. Chuck Todd is a political guy. If you know who he is, he's now gone into sports, and I don't know if it's full time, but his writing, he represents pretty much the ACC. I'm not sure what school is his, but he definitely is trying to advocate for the ACC conference, and in doing so, he's sort of advocating for the Big 12 as well. Anybody that's not the SEC and the Big 10. And this article is fantastic. The title of the article is ESPN editorial ought to be ashamed of this. It's rigged with an SEC bias built into the ESPN Invitational CFP committee. Try it. Miami winning out but not playing an ACC title game. This game has them not making it this little pick'em game they put together. No explanation of why Notre Dame is in over them. I think the excuse I've heard used over and over and over again is Notre Dame's won what, 9, 10 games, 8 games in a row now, and that by themselves, and the way they're winning them puts them ahead of Miami. It's a joke, everybody. It's a joke. If you think that Notre Dame, for any way, shape, or form, is ahead of Miami just because, that's not a reason. That's not a reason. So Chuck Todd's critical of this article written by ESPN. I'm not going to break down their article, but I encourage you to listen to it or read it and reply to that tweet from Chuck Todd, because he's super smart when he's talking about, he understands how people work and he understands the politics of this big time. Let's see, other bookmarks that I have. This is and I addressed this at the very beginning, might as well bring it up really quick. This is the ACC out of nowhere advocating for Miami, which, by the way, they did the exact same thing last year. And by the time they did, it was too late. The ACC didn't say anything about Miami until they saw between the last 2 weeks in the CFP voting that the public was turning to support Miami instead of Notre Dame. Once that happened, all of a sudden they were fans of Miami. Absolutely, it's duplicitous. It's sideways. And as far as I'm concerned, the ACC and the Big 12 both should be starting these lobbying efforts at week 1, not at week 10, 11, 12, 13. It's too late. It's too late. Now, Miami's argument may win out. We won't know until the end. But this is chicken crap, what they're doing here. It's absolute BS that I don't know where they support Miami. I mean, way stupid, everybody. Way stupid. Let's see here. Any others? Let's see. And then the 2014 playoff, that's something else. And I'll get to the comments that have come on since I've been talking this last few minutes. And again, I'm going to go back. I'm going to click on the CFP thing again, and it still hasn't started. Whatever. ESPN can't do anything right. 2014 playoff. Let's talk about that really quick. Who here, raise your hand if you're in support of a 2014 playoff? I am. 2014 playoff would represent the top 8. The top 8 would get buys, and then their first games would be at home. The first round, which would be anybody from 9 to 24, are playing each other, and they're at the lower seeds home games. So the first 2 rounds are home games, which I totally feel is warranted. People deserve it. If you earn it, you should get it. The format I like is either it's between 2, 3, or 4 by 4 or 3 by 3 or 2 by 2 for the power conferences. That would be the autonomous conferences. And then the rest would be open, except for you'd give 2 to the G6 instead of just the 1. So that's 16, 18. That means there's six open spots. They can go to anybody. If you're already given 4 to the SEC, conceivably they could get 7 teams in. Fine, whatever. All I want is the best 4 teams from the Big 12 to get in. This year, I want 3 teams to get in the playoff. I want Texas Tech to get in, I want BYU to get in, and I want Utah to get in. I'm okay with that. I would love Utah to get in there and thump somebody. I want Big 12 schools to win. I don't know how it's going to get any better. The 5-11 or the, what is it now? 5 and 6, 7. I hate it. I hate 12. It's not enough. It's possible that both BYU and Miami get screwed this year, and they were both screwed and left out on the edge last year. That would suck. So I might be the only one. So I'm going to quickly go through some comments here as we move into, and we're still buying time for this CFP. I don't know what they're doing. Chris G says the ACC is a train wreck and always has been, and I'm an ACC guy. Yeah, if you're a Virginia Tech fan, boy, I want Virginia Tech in the Big 12. Let's go, Chris. Let's make that happen. Let's see. Sir Fundies. There's a fun name. I've seen that before. Welcome to the channel. Make sure you subscribe and follow us on Twitter and hit that subscription button on YouTube, College Football Mafia. If Texas Tech didn't lose to an unranked ASU, Utah and BYU would be in the CFP. Boy, there's an argument there to be had for certain. Argument there to be had. It's very, very possible. I'm okay with for instance, I'm okay with getting rid of the championship games and going to semifinals for the conferences. I don't think you need championship games anymore. I think that the team that wins the conference should be the one that has the best record, head to head and all the metrics. So anyway, it doesn't really matter. Let's see. Christopher Foote, was Miami, Florida a reputable team last year? Yes, they were the first team out last year. They were 13. BYU should have been 13, and Miami should have been 14, in my opinion. But that's not what happened. BYU ended up at 17. Believe me, there's bias there. And there were 3 SEC teams ahead of them in between. But Miami was in the playoff last year if it's 16 teams. Daniel Guyak says, hey. Christopher Foote says no. Daniel, I'm thinking, says he put his hand up, so he supports 24 team. Sir Fundy says no. I appreciate you guys. I don't mind you guys disagreeing with me. Christopher Foote, I like the BCS. There you go. Fine. 1 versus 2. You need to, modern day football, you have to have a tournament, Christopher. 4th team in each conference sucks. I don't believe that to be true. Now, maybe that might be this year in the Big 12 and the ACC. You could argue with the 4th team's not great. But generally, the 4th team is going to get you, at least they'll give you a competition. Anything's better than the bowl games, guys. The bowl games stay where they are, but instead of playing just random mishmash matchups, you actually have these games put together. They fit over the playoff. It's not hard. Now you have the Outback Bowl game 5 of the playoff. It's pretty simple. I don't know why they make it more complex than they need to. But I understand what you're saying. Let's see here. I'm scrolling down. Really appreciate you guys interacting with me here. Oh, here we go. Looks like they're just starting. So let's see. They've already jumped. They are ahead. They're into it. So I've got the audio off. So I will work through the CFP picks as they come up. You guys just continue to leave your comments and questions, and we will flag them. Daniel is not logged in, so he can't flag him for me. But They're at a basketball game doing this. That's interesting. Okay, so keep giving me your comments. I will scroll through them as they make announcements. I'm just warning everybody, this first announcement is going to piss me off because BYU is going to be, they're going to be 11, and that's really going to piss me off. Utah is going to be 12, and Alabama is ahead of both of them, and I think that's broken. Oh boy, it doesn't really matter. That's all the news I wanted to get through too. So this is live TV. So as we're waiting for them to break this out, it says next exclusive reveal of CFP ranking. So they're still not even doing it yet. They lied. They totally lied. They're doing it. Last week they did it an hour early. This week they're doing it an hour late. This really pisses me off. All right. Well, since that's commercial, I'll get to more of our comments here. No, don't worry about it, Daniel. It's fine. Let's see here. What other headlines was I going to run through with you guys? What does everybody think about this? Is Nicole Arbach, well-written article. I'll put it in the comments. And it looks like they're getting close to picking them out here. Nicole Arbach says that Michigan and also it's intimated that USC could go independent at the end of this this Gore extension, which ends in 2036 for the Big Ten. Here we go. Okay, I'll get to this in a second. Let me bring this back down. All right. So Illinois, Missouri, Houston, Tulane, and Arizona State. Arizona State comes in at 25. Illinois comes in at 21. Houston's at 23. That's interesting. So there's some change there from the top 25 I just ran through with you. 16 through 20. Georgia Tech 16. Texas 17. Michigan 18. Virginia 19. Tennessee 20. So Georgia Tech, Texas, Michigan, Virginia, Tennessee. Okay, so that's the next 5. Those are all probably right. Texas, it was always a question how far they were going to fall. Michigan 8-2, Virginia 9. I don't think you can't really argue those. I don't think. I'm just looking while we're waiting. I'm looking to see. So they had Texas 17. Yeah. So those are all generally the same thing. Swapped USC and it looks like Georgia Tech maybe because USC won last weekend. Texas fell 7 spots, but that's because they were already artificially high at 11 or 12. Okay, here we go. 15 is USC. 15's USC. It's like I'm reading lottery numbers. I hope you guys appreciate this. This is hard work. I'm just teasing. This is fun stuff. Okay. So USC's 15. They're taking their sweet time here. Vanderbilt is 14. And on the AP, Vanderbilt was 12. So they had Vanderbilt dropping 2 spots, which is interesting. That's interesting because if they lower Vanderbilt, Miami's 13. So Miami went up 1, Vanderbilt dropped 2. So, and then here they're profiling Miami, and I think it's because they're winning and they're getting a lot of positive publicity. So Miami is up and Vanderbilt dropped, which means Utah is going to be 12 again. I'm just looking here to see. Miami. These are all 8-2 teams, by the way. These are all these games. All these games would be competitive. Tell me a 24-team playoff doesn't look good if you take this top 24. It's a stupid argument, in my opinion. Utah's 12. And Alabama should be 11, but they won't be. Just preparing the world. Yeah, BYU's up 1. They're 11. So I can tell you the rest of the top 10 is not going to change. Alabama, Notre Dame, Oklahoma, Oregon, Texas Tech, Ole Miss, Georgia, Texas A&M, Indiana, and Ohio State. I'm gonna have to go back and watch this feed because I can only imagine the excuses they're making for BYU not being ahead of Alabama. So stupid. All right, I'm a homer. Okay. So questions, comments. I gave you guys the rankings. There's not much else that's going to be changing. So if you're just talking about the middle of the rankings, which is where everybody was moving, Miami moved up. BYU went up one. Utah went up one. Vanderbilt dropped two. And they were the biggest of the top games. Oh, Georgia Tech went down. USC went up. That's essentially the rankings. So, you guys have any questions? Any comments? No, I'm not shocked BYU is out too. They have 2 more games to play. I don't know that anything they do is going to make a difference outside of losing. There's nothing BYU can do at this point. The same thing happened to us last year. Same thing. And the Big 12 it has to look at this as, again, this is disrespect, because basically you're saying Texas A&M, wherever they end up, they beat 2 teams that aren't in the top 10. And the longer they keep Utah and BYU out of the top 10, the more they can repeat that Texas Tech hasn't played any top 10 teams. Recent top 10 teams. It's very, very frustrating. Okay, so in just a little bit, we will be having our football news and notes handicapper join the show. So I've got a couple minutes here. Do you guys have any other questions, comments, concerns, stuff that you guys had, questions that I could answer for you while we're here before we have our guest come on? I'll just work backwards through rankings. Oklahoma's up, Oregon's up, Texas Tech is going to be 5 or 6, and that's going to be it. Isaac Harlan says, not shocked BYU is out, but just offended. Yeah. Well, if you're a BYU fan, you should be offended. It's complete disrespect. Daniel Guy says, come on, Auburn. The Big 12 needs 2 teams in. Okay. Joseph Kerlegan Jr. says, who would you like to see as the number 1 team in the CFP if Ohio State loses against Michigan? Well, I mean, Indiana has just beat the crap out of everybody. Texas A&M had their one throwaway. They had their mulligan. They still have to play Texas. So Texas A&M is not a foregone conclusion. It's going to go undefeated either. Texas Tech went up to 5. So that's it. The highest the Big 12 is to 5. Still isn't into those coveted 4 spots that gives you a bye. What can you do about it? Let's see here. Not shocked BYU is out. Yep. Christopher Foote, I would hate having to play extraordinary games. Sure. I mean, I get what you're saying. Sure. It's a seasonal sport and it's not supposed to last forever. Well, you need to go wash your mouth out with soap there, Christopher. Of course it's supposed to last forever. It's college football, buddy. I'm just teasing. I want more college football, and it doesn't bother me. These kids are getting paid a lot of money. It does not surprise me that they're talking about an expanded playoff at all. Any more comments? Got 5 minutes before my guest joins. I think that's it. So the breakout, first team out is BYU, second team out is Utah. So the question will be, will they be penalized if they play and lose Big 12 title game to Texas Tech again? Their only 2 losses would be against, at that point, somebody who would be in the top 3 or 4 in the CFP. Their only games lost are to them. It would be harsh if BYU gets left out and they get their 11-2 get left out again. That would be very, very harsh. I wanted to quickly get to this Michelle Arbach article though, because possibility of any team going independent, I think, is a real concern if you are part of the bigger conferences. I already posted the link. I'll post it again. Cole Arbach, sorry. Cole Arbach. Good article, good post. But at the end of the day, if put yourself in the position of Ohio State, Michigan, USC, even to a lesser extent, Penn State, Washington, and Oregon. Do you want to sign a grant of rights that takes you through 2046? Because that's what it would be. The Big Ten would run from 2036 to 2046. What do you guys think? Is that something that you think you would want to do if you were one of those schools? If you are Purdue, you want that. You want that contract. You want to bind that league together, the Big Ten. But if you're Michigan, we've been saying this for actually years around here. Why would Ohio State would make tons more money if they weren't tied to the Big Ten. Millions and millions and millions of dollars more. So I don't know how you can answer that and say no, that it wouldn't be, it would not be a possibility. I think it's an extreme possibility it could happen. It could happen as early as 2030. Because they can always buy their way out of these grant of rights. Not saying they will, but they could. But their value as individual brands is much higher than it is in a conference where you're collating everybody's rights together, and then the higher brands have to bring up the lower brands. Ask Ute about milking. That's what he's talking about, right? The milking, brands that would milk the bigger brands for stability. Yeah, if I'm Ohio State, I seriously have to consider, I at least have to do a research project on it to see if it makes sense to do. You have to do some research to find out about it. Sean, the ACC wished they had never locked a Gore up. Yeah, not the entire ACC. Wake Forest is happy with it, Sean. It's Florida State, Miami, Clemson. They're the ones who are regretting that long Gore. So, yeah, again, every conference, Big 12 to a lesser extent, because everybody's relatively in the same neighborhood, at least within percentages. But the top end of the ACC, the top end of the Big Ten, the top end, well, I'll say the ACC and the Big Ten are very reliant on those top brands. There's absolutely no doubt about it, and it's proved in the viewership numbers. It's a fact. I'm not making anything up. It's not something to argue either. It is a fact. So we will have to see. Things continue to change, but 2036 isn't that all far away. If they determine that they can make more money sooner than later, they can make moves to try to even make a change before then. Joseph Kerlegan Jr., I could see Netflix or Amazon trying to influence a major school to go independent in the near future if NFL talks heat up for rights to the NFL games. Yes, you're exactly right, Joseph. Yep. The first one that I would put on that list if NBC doesn't take care of Notre Dame would be Notre Dame. And then I would say it would be Ohio State, then it would be Michigan, and then it would be USC, and then Penn State. Of those four, I think Penn State is behind all. Well, I guess I'm not sure about USC. Michigan and Ohio State by far and away are the biggest two in the Big Ten. But Penn State and USC have to. USC's been bad, so their viewership numbers have been down generally. So I'd say Penn State, then USC, and valuable brands. But it could happen. Anybody that thinks the Big Ten's here forever and will never change, you're going to get left behind. That is not true. You can demonstrably give examples of why that would not be the case if they wanted to make a change. And I'm not saying they do, but if they did. If you're a member of the College Football Mafia family, the Wild Ute has probably 20 videos on this in the members section. So if you're a new member that's been gifted a membership in the last month and a half, 2, and you haven't had time, just next time you're in the shower, turn on YouTube and just go to the library of member videos, and all the numbers are there. Look, go back 2 years or do a search for Ohio State. I'm not sure if it's been called out. We talked about it in several episodes. It was at least 2 years ago, though, where we broke out the numbers for an Ohio State to go independent, and the numbers could justify it. So, I'm not saying it will happen. I'm saying it could happen. Yeah, I don't know where else to go with that. At the end of the day, these schools, they matter a ton to each other. And I don't know where my guest is. Hopefully he shows up here in the next minute or two. Caden, the Diesel Freak, says, are you opening the phone line? I don't know, Caden. I'm not sure. It doesn't sound to me like there's a ton to talk about, I'll be perfectly honest. This week hasn't been like, where's the big debates? Everybody now can look at the season and say, okay, these are the schools that are going to be competing for the college football playoff. I don't have a lot of rage to talk about tonight. Are there a bunch of people that want to have the phone lines open outside of Caden? Does anybody else want to call in? Because if not, we'll just leave it at that. If there's a bunch of people put their hand up and say, yes, I'd love to call in and let's talk about the CFP, I'd do it right now. Well, I was waiting on my guest, first of all. My guest hasn't shown up, so does anybody else want to call in besides Caden? Earl Carr, where have you been? It's so good to see Earl. If you're not aware of Earl's game, he's an OG member of the College Football Mafia family and is very much appreciated around here. Earl, $10 super chat says, Utah and BYU are getting royally screwed. They are not even hiding their bias. Earl, you could not be more right. Earl's been a member, by the way, over 2 years, like 28 months. Earl's been a member of the College Football Mafia family. And that's literally almost the day we started taking memberships. So I really appreciate Earl. He's a BYU fan, and I love everything he does for us, certainly. They're not hiding it, Earl. And the way that they've moved Miami up, and all Miami has done is win, just like BYU and Utah. That shows you kind of where the public will is. So it's kind of scary times. If you were a Big 12, and I know Kurtz has talked about it. I know other creators have talked about possibly getting 3 teams in. I just don't see how that happens. I can't see that path to get it done. But time will tell. We have 2 more weeks. Wild Ute coming in off the top rope out of nowhere. This growing narrative that Miami and Vandy would jump Utah and BYU is insane. Based on what justification? That is the question. Okay, and here we go. Robert has joined the chat. How you doing, Robert?
I am well, sir. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm gonna mark this comment from Wild Ute. I will come back to it. So we've been trying to do this for a couple weeks. I appreciate you joining tonight.
Yeah, anytime.
So I know a little bit about you. I've read your bio. I know you've been doing sports for a while now. The written word has kind of been your bailiwick. Right now, what are the 2 or 3 headlines that you really see screaming out of college football right now?
Oh, wow. That's interesting because, again, I look at it more from a very micro level of specific matchups from week to week, right?
Right.
As a fan, I used to be a sports reporter in New York before I was a handicapper here. I would be following those bigger stories, those bigger arcs, those bigger narratives. But honestly, right now, I'm so focused on is Bo Prabula coming back to play for Missouri, and what's that doing to the spread? And, Temple, what's going on there? Are they going to be able to get to that bowl game? That all the stuff with the playoffs, it's just noise to me. Like, I don't even pay attention to it. Like this, and this happens to me in every sport too. Like in the NFL or in college football, someone will come up to me at the beginning of the year and be like, "Hey, who's going to win the Super Bowl or who's going to win the national championship?" And I'm always like, "I don't know, man. Like, I'm not a fortune teller. That's not what it is. Like, crystal ball isn't my thing. Like, it's numbers and it's stats and it's trends and it's movements and it's stuff like that." So I get kind of tunnel vision when it comes to handicapping this time of year. So I'm not, so like the James Franklin thing, for instance, right? Obviously a big story this week. Like, I don't care about that. That's not even on my radar. Like, for weeks, people were talking about, like, where should he go? Where would you see him fit? I'm like, I don't know. Like, when the season's over, I'll see where the college coaching carousel goes and we'll figure it out. But right now I'm just worried about, like, okay, he signed with them. How is that going to impact the players on the field this weekend against Miami? Not, is this a good hire? Is this a good fit? Is this a good, did they make, do you grade this an A+ move or anything like that?
Right. So I'm glad you brought that up, because handicapping around here every Friday we pick against the spread as a team, right? And that's because Moen is he's like a undercover super gambler or something, and so he keeps us all on the edge about where those prop bets and stuff are. Riddle me this: BYU has beat the spread in the last 2 years, like 17 out of 21 games or some ridiculous number. At what point does Vegas turn around and actually start giving them the due that I believe they've earned?
Listen, I agree with you. They are a team that I will not bet against at this point. Kalani Sitake, the guy just knows what he's doing. And they almost remind me of, not as much recently, but like early 2000 teens Pittsburgh Steelers, right? Or even, I guess, in recent years, where the numbers, the metrics don't match the performance.
Right. Yeah, like, that's a good, I like that. Yeah.
There isn't one thing about BYU that you can say that they just do this at a dominating level. It's just, one weekend it's special teams. One weekend Hank Bachmeier carries them with his legs. The next it's with his arms. It was the same way last year with their quarterback.
Retzlaff,
with Retzlaff, like, he just had an intangible quality about him that I didn't think that, frankly, they were going to be able to replace this year. And boy, was I wrong about that.
You weren't the only one.
Yeah, that's why I give Sitake a lot of his due. But that's what it is that most of the time these odds makers are setting their lines based on some pretty raw data, like stats like EPA, yards per point, total yardage, some really simple things. And BYU just doesn't jump off the page at you. They're not exceptional in any one area. They're just a very well-balanced, well-disciplined football team.
So if we look at the Big 12 in general, there's been heads and tails. There's been 3 teams most of the season, Texas Tech, BYU, and Utah. And when you match those teams up against, let's just say it's the Big 10, and you do the comparables outside of a few brands in the Big 10, they have to measure up pretty well.
Yeah, they do. Like, this has been, even before we had the consolidation, this whole narrative of the SEC just being so much better than everybody else and the Big 10, like, that was always garbage. I always used that to my advantage. Like, the Big 12 is big boy football. You know what I mean? And you look at some of the teams that are dominating and doing exceptionally well in the SEC right now, your Missouris, your Texases, your Oklahomas, those are Big 12 teams. So, even 8 or 10 years ago, when we had the Pac-12 still and kind of the normal breakdown of conference football, this idea that the SEC was just like playing a different sport than everyone else was really nonsense. And if you watch the games, media hype that was driven as much by anything. ESPN for a very long time has had a financial stake and benefit in advancing the SEC cause. And when you talk about narratives in the sport, that's one that I've been paying attention to all year. Is basically you have Fox Sports has thrown his hat in with the Big 10. ESPN is locked in with the SEC. So anytime you hear anyone from those networks discussing those two conferences and the top teams, you have to remember that they have a financial interest and a vested stake in pushing the Big Ten, more Big Ten teams into the playoffs or more SEC teams into the playoffs. So I'm with you. The Big 12 is outstanding. It's got great depth. The middle of that conference is very, very good. I think the middle of, you can't tell me a team like Vanderbilt, who's number 14 in the country, who is having a great year in the SEC. You cannot tell me that they would roll into Ames and just blow Iowa State out. Okay?
Right.
That wouldn't happen. I've seen both of those two teams. So, it is going to be interesting to see how it shakes out if they get that second bid, which I think that they deserve. But yeah, it's going to be exciting coming down the stretch. The team I want to see is Utah, really. They're the team other than Texas Tech. No disrespect to BYU. It's not disrespect to BYU because all they do is win. And I see you got your BYU hat on, so I'm not gonna mess with it. But
it's okay. You're not gonna threaten my Cougars. It's okay.
I just feel like when we get down to let's say the best 8 teams in the country, okay, after that first weekend, when we get rid of some of the pretenders like the ACC rep and the Group of 5 rep and whatever, we get down to the last 8 teams. I feel like Utah is by this much is a little bit more capable of winning a game. I feel like they have the physical strength in the trenches. That they could beat a team from the Big Ten.
Okay. I would say, BYU beat Utah.
They did.
And they were this nonsense about him being hurt from the Wyoming game. That narrative came after BYU beat them. We hadn't heard about that in the week before. So I understand what you're saying, and you can't fight the narrative. It's hard to fight against City Hall. I'm just letting you know, having seen these teams up close and in person, that BYU's beat them for a reason 3 years in a row. So
sure.
I don't know what else to say about that.
Well, no, but again, and BYU will be the more deserving team if this season plays out the way that I think it will. Like Utah,
if they win out,
yeah. But I'm just saying from a matchup perspective. Okay,
that's fair.
From a matchup perspective, I feel like Utah has a little bit more strength, a little bit more athleticism that they would match up a little bit better against a team like Oregon. Let's say,
okay,
where a team like BYU, I think they'd be 12-point favorite or underdogs or third. It'd be disrespectful. They would be a double-digit underdog to a team like Oregon or a team like Miami, right? And I think that they would cover that spread and they would hang around because, again, BYU is just better than people realize. But I think Utah would have a chance to win either of those games just because of the physicality and the athleticism. I just think they're just this much better. That's all.
Okay. Hey, I asked your opinion. Sometimes you don't look. You're the guy who does this for a living, right? I'm just a Joe Schmo guy that's got a channel that people listen to for some reason. But you look at the analytics, and I understand the analytics matter and all those other things. All I will say is BYU for the last 2 years has beat the analytics and has beat the spread. Like I said, it's 17 or 18 out of 21 games. And so, everybody keeps saying Utah would be the better, and yet then if they were better, they would not lose to BYU. They wouldn't have got beat by Texas Tech. So come on now. That's all I'm saying.
The game against BYU, if I remember correctly, didn't that feature a bunch of Utah turnovers? They had a fumble, they had an interception. I think they got stopped on downs. They actually outgained.
That game was actually a 31-17 game. They got a cheap touchdown at the end if you really want
late. Yeah, it was 20. Yep, it was 24-14, and they scored late.
It was like a 90-second throw the ball everywhere and play prevent defense because you got time on your sides type touchdown. BYU won that game.
They did. They did. Yeah. Just like they did last year. There's nothing fluky about what BYU.
Turnovers don't just appear. The luck idea is ridiculous. That's all I'm saying.
It's not luck. It's not luck because, like you said, they've been doing it for years. They've been doing it for 2 years, and like I said, that's why they're a good comp for them is the Pittsburgh Steelers. Okay,
I like that. I thought
they do the same thing. It's not pretty. There's not something that you focus on. But like you said, forcing turnovers is a skill. They're consistently better than the odds makers and the general public perceive them to be. That's winning football. You know what I mean? But again, to your point, when you take the 10,000-foot view, you're like, okay, they were underdogs in that game. BYU was. They were at home. They did get outgained by 120 yards. They did benefit benefit from turnovers. Now BYU won the game. I'm with you 100%. We are 1,000% on the same page there. But I'm saying that odds makers and people like that, they look at that raw data and they say, okay, if these two teams played again next week on a neutral site, let's just say they were. Say they're playing in the Big 12 championship. Who would be more likely to be favored and who would be more likely to win the game? They would still say Utah. That doesn't mean that they would. We see upsets and underdogs win outright all the time. That doesn't mean that the odds makers are wrong in who they interpret as the stronger team. But you know how it is. You got to play 60 minutes, man. You got to go out there in between the lines and show who you really are. You know, that's why upsets happen all the time. I mean, look at Texas. At the beginning of the year, no team in college football took more money to win the national championship. I think at one point this summer, over 50% of all the national championship futures tickets written in Vegas were on Texas. That means,
is that right?
Yes, that means Texas against the field.
Oh my gosh.
They had written more Texas. They had more liability on Texas to win the national championship than they wanted. Oh, 100%. Everybody and their sister was on Texas coming into the season. They're not even going to make the playoffs. You know what I mean? So you still have to go out and play.
Agreed, 100%. And it's not how you start, it's how you finish. And that's what we're seeing in the CFP. The first couple weeks of the season don't seem to matter anymore. If you win, the time to lose is in September, not in November. And we're seeing that across the board. Okay, first, I did give you a second to introduce yourself, kind of tell everybody what you do. And I'd love to have you come around more. This has been a lot of fun.
Yeah, no, anytime you need me, I would love to. And anybody that's interested in more, just run over to Doc Sports and you can check us out over there. Like I said, this is my 20th football season that I've been doing it. I can't believe it. As I mentioned, I was a sports reporter before I went to Docs. I started as just a writer there. And then when they were only selling one guy's pick, Doc of Doc Sports.
Hey, there you go.
Yeah, he started the company in 1971. I joined in 2004.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So he had been selling just his picks forever. They decided they wanted to expand and add more handicappers. And they asked me if I wanted to do it. And at first I was like, no, like I know what I'm doing, but the responsibility of having people's money at stake, I take very seriously. But then I was like, man, I'd never forgive myself if I didn't take the chance. And here we are 20 years later. So
it's fun to be doing your passion, isn't it? It's fun to be working on stuff that it's not work, really. You just get out of bed and you just live, eat, breathe, and all that other fun stuff. Do you have a few picks for this weekend that people can kind of point to and say, hey, that's a game that we want to definitely something to consider betting, or avoid this one like the plague?
Let me take a look. And while I'm pulling this up, I would love to get your thoughts on that BYU Cincinnati game. Sure. I'm very intrigued in that. I feel like Cincinnati was a team that if anyone had read any of my preseason stuff, I had them pegged as like a sleeper. I thought they were going to be a very good team against the spread. I thought they were going to be much better than people thought. However, I feel like they got a little out over their skis and now they're coming back to earth a little bit. I think they were really good, kind of like in Arizona in that underdog role. But once they got favored, they got near the top of the conference. Like they really just don't have the depth and physicality to keep up. You have thoughts on that?
They were a year away. I think I had them winning like 7-5. I think is what I picked Cincinnati to be this year. At the end of the day, the margins from 4-8 and 8-4 in the Big 12 are very, very narrow. Yep. Their injuries last 2 weeks has been a thing, obviously. Also, it seems to me like they've lost that edge. BYU lost that edge last year for a couple games in a row, and it's difficult to get that back. This is a night game. It's great for Cincinnati. I think it's going to be great to have college football on Fox there for the noon show and everything else. But at the end of the day, BYU feasts at night. They're now 36-4 at any games past 6 p.m., and this just happens to kick off at 7. Wow. So it's a big – I don't know. The spread right now is what, 4.5. Mm-hmm. I will lay those points. I definitely think BYU will cover. And Kalani's got the bit now. He's had, even now BYU homers are saying, look, style points matter. Like I'm 55 years old. I've been screaming that since I was in high school, Robert, just so you know. So style points do matter. They mattered in the 80s and they matter big time nowadays. And I think he's got it in his head. Look, if we're not going to lobby by saying words, we need to lobby on the field. And so I think they're going to come out with an edge. Bear looks different. He looked different on Saturday. And I think, I don't know. I don't want to look past Cincinnati. Certainly there's not a team in the Big 12 we would look past.
No.
But I think the 4 points, whatever it is, I think BYU maybe 10.
Yeah, I mean, I think that this is it, right? Like they control their own destiny and can punch the Big 12 championship game here. They know they're going to beat Central Florida next week.
Yeah.
Central Florida looks like a team that's kind of, I don't want to say quitting on the season, but Scott Frost looks like he's doing what a lot of first-year coaches do, which is they come in and they kind of clear out the guys that aren't buying into the program or that they don't want. But that's a team that's not playing particularly well. You got to make that trip out to Provo. That's not going to be fun. So next week's going to be a blowout. So I think Kalani Sitake is smart enough to put all his eggs in this basket this weekend.
Yes.
Okay, win this game. Okay, then we're going to go to the Big 12 championship game, and then we're gonna try and punch our own ticket here. So
this is the Kansas game from last year that they lost.
Yeah.
This is the game they have to win to get over and to make it to play Texas Tech again. And I'll tell you this for the world, I haven't talked about Texas Tech again because you have to get to the game, but BYU came out of that game thinking they were only just 2 or 3 plays away from being a different score in that game. So everybody's going to look at a couple things that sort of made things look like the game was going one way. That's not what the coaches were saying after that game on Monday last week. So I just want to get there again. I want to get back and play against Texas Tech.
I agree with you in that game. I also felt that way about the Utah Texas Tech game.
Yeah.
Utah was put at a severe disadvantage by having them move that game to the noon kickoff, which was 9 a.m. recently, local time. Like that
it's 10 a.m. here.
Yeah. Like I would have been pissed. Yeah. Like that was a joke that they did that to them. They didn't play well. They just didn't play well. They kept turning the ball over. They weren't ready to go. But that game was still 10-10 in the fourth quarter, and then the ball just got rolling downhill. So I mean, it looks like a blowout. That game wasn't a blowout. Texas Tech just got rolling in the last 12 minutes. So same type of thing. Like I think either one of those teams is more than capable of beating Texas Tech if they face them again in the Big 12 championship.
Well, I would love that. That's probably the only way you're getting 2 teams in. But we'll have to see. All right, go ahead.
Okay, got some picks. I'm going to go a little bit rapid fire for you. This is fortunately people can rewind and if they don't get it all in the first.
Okay.
All right, one of the ones I'm looking at is and this is a ridiculous one to start with. This is where I'm starting. Charlotte plus 43.5 at Georgia. Okay. The Georgia Bulldogs, Kirby Smart does not do well in this spread range. He is 0-11 against the spread the last 11 times he's been a favorite of 37.5 points or more. Some guys lay the wood. Lane Kiffin, he'll hang 70 on Watford and just go. That is not what Kirby Smart does. Okay, they just had a physical game against Texas, big night game at home. They got their rivalry game against Georgia Tech next week, and then they have the SEC championship game and the playoffs. He is not going to waste his top talent in this game against Charlotte. Charlotte's one of the worst teams in college football, okay? And that's why, and again, this is what I get into. If you look at the betting percentages in that game, around 74% of the action is coming in on Georgia, but that number is dropping from 45.5 where it opened to 43.5. I wouldn't be surprised to see it go even lower. And what that is that's the sharp action. That's the big bettors that know that Kirby Smart doesn't do well in this role are betting on Georgia, and they're pushing that number down.
Wow.
Where the general public is just like, oh my God, Georgia's going to beat them by 60. Well, this time of year, motivation is so important. Okay. And there's no motivation for Georgia. And like I said, he's 0-11. He's 0-11 in that role. All right. Okay. Another one that I'm looking at is two more SEC underdogs that I like. I like Arkansas plus 9.5 at Texas. And I like Kentucky plus 9.5 at Vanderbilt. With Arkansas, they have nothing to play for. They are 2-8 on the season. They are not going bowling. Bobby Petrino, though, he is motivated because he's still trying to keep that job. He wants to be named the Arkansas coach. They were very competitive last week against LSU. I thought they should have won that game. And this is an Arkansas team that has been a hard luck team all year. They lost to LSU by 1, Mississippi State by 3, Texas A&M by 3, Tennessee by 3, Memphis by 1, Ole Miss by 6. Okay, that's a lot of really good teams that they were this close to beating.
Right.
Touching 9.5 against Texas, who just had their bubble burst. They just lost their third game. They're not going to the playoffs. This season has turned into a dud. What is Texas's motivation to go out and blow Arkansas out? And even if they were motivated, I don't know if they would blow Arkansas out because, as I mentioned, they have played tight games against teams that are just as good, if not better than Texas. With Kentucky, it's like the pressure is on Vanderbilt, right? Like this is all new territory for them. Like I was joking on a podcast a few weeks ago. I was like, I can't believe that I live in a universe and in a timeline where Indiana and Vanderbilt are both in the top 10 in college football, right? Well, Vanderbilt still has work to do if they want to get into the college football playoff. I think they're going to be on the outside looking in, but they have all the pressure in the world on them. I don't love betting against Diego Pavia. I am firmly on record as saying I would vote for him president of the universe. I love Diego Pavia. He is the greatest thing ever. However, this is a team that performs better in the underdog role than in the favorite role. And Kentucky is one of those teams, they're just tough to blow out. They just kind of hang around. And after that really poor start, they've been playing better. They've won three straight. They upset Auburn. They beat Florida. They have 5 wins. Kentucky has 5 wins. So they are trying to get that 6th win to get to a bowl game. So they're not going to give away an opportunity. So I just feel like 9.5 is a little too many points for Vanderbilt to lay. A few other random ones that I'm looking at is Delaware plus 17.5 against Wake Forest. This is a Delaware team that was very competitive with Colorado on the road earlier in the year. Wake Forest, you have to wonder what their motivation level is. They've been kind of like a thorn in the side of really good teams in the ACC, but now they're dressing up as like a 17.5 point favorite in a game that really doesn't mean anything to them. Yeah. And I just don't know that Wake Forest, with their style of play, which is more like grinding, defense, run the ball, stuff like that, I don't know if they have the juice to get out ahead of that number and really just like build a 24-point lead or something like that. I'm also, another game, I'm looking at Maryland, plus 13.5. If you remember correctly, Maryland had some close calls early on in the season with some good teams. They had, I think it was Iowa beat, they had Washington beat, they gave away those games. Michigan is looking ahead of that Ohio State game. They just lost their running back for the year. So I just don't think that Michigan is a team that's going to roll into Maryland and win by 2 touchdowns. I think Notre Dame beats Syracuse by 40. And so I would lay the points, whatever that is. And where was my other one? Oh, Florida Atlantic catching plus 7.5 at home against Connecticut. Another team that's fighting for a bowl game, and Connecticut is in a letdown situation. They just played 3 straight home games up in Stores, including taking on Duke, which was a very big game for Connecticut. Anytime they get to play an ACC team or a team from a major conference, that's a big deal for a program like Connecticut. They won that. Then they played Air Force last week in the snow and cold. Now they're going on the road to Boca Raton to face a Florida Atlantic team that's been up and down, but you're giving me 7.5 points at home against a team that's a long flight, different environment, different climate that they're going to have to play in. Connecticut has not played well on the road, lost to Delaware, struggled against a bad Ball State team, lost at Syracuse. So Connecticut's been vulnerable. I think they're getting a little bit too much respect in the market right now. And I think Florida Atlantic will hang around in that one.
One last question. Where are you on the Notre Dame Miami argument? So you have, and I'm trying to get you on the record here. Does head-to-head matter at the end of the day? That's where the question is. In my opinion, Notre Dame and Miami should be swapped if you're going to do anything. But I think all the Big 12 schools should be ahead of both of them, in my opinion. So where are you with the head-to-heads versus whatever it is that they're doing now?
Okay. Head-to-head has to matter. It has to. Like, if it comes down to those 2 teams, you have to go with Miami, even though I personally think Notre Dame's a better team. I think if they played again today, they would beat them. That game was a true road game. But the thing is that Notre Dame hasn't done enough against their schedule. Their schedule has been a joke. Say what you want about how bad the ACC is. I still think Miami's played against better competition than Notre Dame.
I would agree with that. Yeah.
This year, you know what I mean? And if Miami doesn't get in, they really have no one but themselves to blame. Like Mario Cristobal, I wouldn't trust that guy to run a hot dog stand. You know what I mean?
That's awesome. Yeah.
You lose those games as double-digit favorites, you know, at home. They didn't play well at SMU. You know, this weekend they're going to Virginia Tech. This is only their third road game of the season, which is unbelievable.
Notre Dame's.
Miami.
Miami's,
this is only their third road game. This is only the second time that they have left the state of Florida all year. The first time was SMU where they lost. So they've had a lot of cushy things kind of go their way. But I think Miami should get the benefit of the doubt because of the head-to-head win and playing a better schedule. I think Notre Dame will get the benefit of the doubt, A, because of metrics, B, because they're playing better right now. And I think a lot of people would agree that if they played tomorrow, that Notre Dame would win them. Number 3 or C is because of the brand, and they want want the brand in there. And you do have to give a little bit of consideration, I suppose, to the fact that Notre Dame was the runner-up last year. You know, they did win those games. They did give Ohio State a test. So it's not like it would be charity to put them in. But you know, I don't know. I don't know if that was a clear answer.
It was, yeah. No, I got declaration from you.
Yeah, my belief is that head-to-head should matter and Miami should get it.
Okay.
But Notre Dame will get it. That's
all right. We'll have to leave it there. Robert, thank you so much for joining the show. I appreciate it. We'll do this again in the future.
Anytime, man. Anytime. I appreciate you having me on. Good luck.
You need any Big 12 or BYU advice in order to come?
I love it. Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right. We'll see you later, Robert. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right. Robert joined the show. That was fantastic. Thank you so much for being here. That was awesome. I love talking to handicappers because they do the analytics. And while I don't always agree with them, at least they can have a cogent conversation. Dealing with people that all they do is emotion and can't give reasons why things should be that way, a certain way, that bothers me. So come at me with data and facts and we can have a conversation. Just make stuff up and say just because I feel it this way, that doesn't work for me. Right before Robert joined the show, we had 5 gifted memberships went out to Earl Carr, so I'm going to clap those in. Earl, thank you so much. Earl's an OG member of the College Football Mafia family. Those came, and I will read them. They went to Caden the Diesel Freak, Sean, Kenneth Stromness, right? Auto Raider, and Wet Blanket, all old school viewers of the College Football Mafia Network. We appreciate you guys. Please make sure you thank Earl Carr for your free membership. And once this show's over, you guys go into our library and you can watch those on-demand videos. We got a ton of good ones. Never mind the CFP ones and the ones that have to do with realignment. That's where we make our most hay. And if you ask in the comment section or you ask on social media what videos deserve the most respect, our videos by far and away have the best production value and are the best researched videos out there. So College Football Mafia Network, go into the library and go to those member videos. Thank you so much, Earl. I appreciate you doing that and holding off since that came right before Robert joined the show. I got to this right before and I'm going to read it again. Wild View, this growing narrative that Miami and Vandy would jump Utah and BYU is insane. Based on what justification? Yeah, I don't think there is a justification. In my opinion, look, until we have expanded playoffs and we can actually pit these teams against each other, it's always going to be argument's sake. So instead of bitching and moaning about whether the games will matter more or less during the season, in my opinion, they even matter more than they do now. You'll bring back out-of-conference games. Right now, there's a disincentive for Miami to play Notre Dame. Can somebody raise their hand and give one example of where Miami's benefited by winning that game against Notre Dame? I'm going to cut you off there. I can't think of one. They've been penalized over and over and over again. There's no reason to take the risk of that game anymore outside of money. But what are we doing here? Are we playing college football for money, or are we playing it to win a national championship and compete? I guarantee you Miami boosters would pay almost any amount of money themselves to get into the playoff and to compete for national championship. It's not paying the bills because you did a pay game playing at Hard Rock in Florida. That's my opinion. Agree with me, don't agree with me, but that's how I look at it. And then Kenneth Maynard came on and said, committee basically crapped on JMU. That's James Madison. Yeah, James Madison almost got I didn't listen to the audio, but it didn't look to me like they were getting a lot of respect at all. Keep getting passed over week after week by an American team as it should be. That's funny because Kenneth represents the Eastern Carolina Pirates, and they are, of course, in the AAC. So that's the American Conference. Yeah, I don't know. James Madison, ooh, I don't know what you can say about all the G6 schools and everybody that's competing. And the margins are so narrow, guys. Absolutely so narrow for success. It's crazy. I'm going to see if there's any other comments that I wanted to read before we simply get out of here. I want to say hi to Jan Hulk. Jan Hulk checking in from Slovenia in Europe. We appreciate Jan Hulk always being here. He's an OG, whether he's a member or not. I count him as an OG around here. Thank you so much, Jan. It's great to see you, and hope you're doing well. Hope your health is good. And I think that's basically it. Everybody else, this has just been fantastic comments, and it's a great show. The first hour went completely sideways because ESPN threw off my time. That's why we didn't do call-ins, because the CFP was essentially half hour late. 20 minutes late, and that screwed up my schedule. So I'm sorry we didn't get to that. But there's always next week for call-ins. So Caden, you're the one who put your hand up. We'll kick this around next week. I appreciate you being here tonight, though. And I would push everybody, Caden the Diesel Freak on Twitter. Look him up, and he does videos and whatnot on YouTube. Everybody should check him out. All right. I think that's it, you guys. I hope you guys have a remainder of your week good. I think Moen's doing a show tomorrow night. I'm not sure what the topic is, but right here tomorrow evening, 8 p.m. Eastern, Moen's going to be doing something that I'm sure will piss about 3/4 of you off, which is always fun to hate watch. And I appreciate everybody being here tonight with me. Make sure if you're watching, last call, if you're watching on X, do us a favor, open up YouTube. You don't have to switch, don't activate anything. Just go to College Football Mafia and hit the subscribe button and become a subscriber to the College Football Mafia family, and then consider becoming a member by hitting that join button right in the middle of the main page. Other than that, I will say that thanks for everybody for being here tonight. You guys have been awesome. Another CFP in the belt. We only have 2 more to go, which really sucks. Yeah, I don't know. It's like the college football season is never long enough for me, but I'm a junkie. So the rest of you guys saying there's too much college football, I don't know what you're talking about. I cannot, I'm not empathetic to that at all. Everybody stay out of trouble. Have a good rest of your week. We'll see you Friday night here for the College Football Mafia Big Freaking Friday show. A lot of fun. We party. All bets are off. There are no rules. And it's a lot of fun. So I invite everybody to join us here, 8 p.m. Eastern on Friday. But tomorrow night, definitely hit Moen. Moen will be doing a show, Moen Confidential tomorrow or something. Not confidential. That's a members only video. He'll be doing some show tomorrow, maybe The Take. It should be a lot of fun. Yeah, I'm just going to sign off there. So for me, College Football Mafia family, for me, Bomber, I'm going to sign out and say everybody have a great week, and we will see you next week. Stay out of trouble, and please be safe. If you think about somebody you haven't talked to in a long time, their name jumps into your head, it's usually for a reason. Send them a text. Give them a phone call. They probably need it. I believe in it, and I know it. I believe it to be true. I have faith that it is true. So everybody stay out of trouble and be safe, and I will see you on Friday. Bye-bye. Peace.